When I was growing up in our village, there was always one woman who stood out. Her name was Auntie Amma, and she was one of the kindest, most beautiful women you'd ever meet. Everyone loved her. She always had a smile on her face, always helping others. But as I got older, I began to notice something strange about her life. She had no children. In our village, that was unusual. Auntie Amma had been married for years, but while all her friends and even younger women were having children, she never did. People whispered about it behind her back, but no one dared to ask her directly. Some said maybe it was the God's will, others thought it was just fate. But I always felt there was more to the story. I spent a lot of time around Auntie Amma growing up. My mother used to send me to her house to help with chores. One afternoon, when I was about 12, I was sitting with her in her small, warm kitchen, and I just couldn't hold it in anymore. "Auntie Amma," I asked carefully, "how come you don't have any children?" She looked at me, her smile fading slightly. For a moment, I thought I had made a terrible mistake, but then she sighed, setting down the bowl of yams she was peeling. "It's not something I talk about often," she said quietly, her eyes distant like she was remembering something from long ago. I didn't say anything, just waited. The kitchen felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. "When I was young," she began, "maybe around your age, I was a stubborn child. You know how children can be, we say things without thinking, without understanding the weight of our words." She paused, and I saw her eyes darken. There was this old woman in the village, Nana Efua. People didn't like her much because she was always telling children to behave, scolding us when we played too loudly near her house. I knew who Nana Efua was, though she had passed before I was born. From what I had heard, she was a strict old woman, but people respected her. Still, children didn't like her much. One day, Auntie Amma continued, I was playing with my friends near Nana Efua's house. We were being noisy, laughing, as children do. She came out and started shouting at us to leave. I was angry. I don't even know why, I was just a child, thinking I knew everything. A small, sad smile crossed her face. In my anger, I said something terrible. I yelled at her, "If you don't leave us alone, may I never have children, just like you." My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stared at Auntie Amma in shock, but she just shook her head slowly, as if she had played that moment in her mind 1,000 times. Nana Efua didn't say anything, she continued. She just looked at me with those sharp, old eyes of hers. And then, without a word, she turned and went back into her house. What happened after that? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. At the time, nothing, Auntie Amma said softly. Life went on as usual. I didn't think about it again. But then, as I got older, I started noticing things. After I got married, my husband and I tried to have children, but nothing worked. We went to healers, prayed, did everything we could, but still, nothing. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. It wasn't until years later, when I was much older, that I realized what I had done. That careless, foolish curse I spoke in my youth, it had come true. The words I said in anger became my reality. I sat there in silence, not knowing what to say. I had heard stories about curses, about how powerful words could be, but this was different. It was real, sitting right in front of me. Why didn't you ask for forgiveness? I finally asked. Auntie Oma smiled sadly. I tried. When I realized what had happened, I went to the village elders, I prayed, I even went to Nana Effia's grave. But some things, once they are set in motion, they can't be undone. The weight of her words hung in the air like a dark cloud. I never looked at Auntie Oma the same way again. She was still kind, still loving, but now, I saw the pain behind her eyes, the regret she carried every day. She had cursed herself unknowingly, and now she was living with the consequences. But that wasn't the end of her story. Over the years, strange things began happening in the village. Women who had once been able to have children suddenly couldn't. It started slowly, one or two here and there. But soon, more and more women began struggling to conceive. People didn't talk about it openly, but everyone knew something was wrong. And then, one day, I overheard the elders talking. They were saying that Auntie Oma's curse had spread, that it wasn't just affecting her anymore. They believed the curse had become something bigger, something that was now affecting the whole village. That was when I realized the curse wasn't finished. After hearing what the elders said, I felt a chill run down my spine. The idea that Auntie Oma's curse had spread to other women in the village was terrifying. How could something she said as a child have this much power? I couldn't shake the thought, and for days, it was all I could think about. One evening, as the sun was setting, I decided to go back to Auntie Oma's house. I wanted to ask her if she knew what was happening, if she felt the same strange energy I had been feeling. Her door was open when I arrived, and I found her sitting on her porch, staring out into the distance. "Auntie Oma," I said quietly, "I need to talk to you." She didn't turn to look at me but motioned for me to sit beside her. I could tell from her expression that something was bothering her too. "I know why you're here," she said after a long pause, her voice low and sad. "I felt it too. The curse, it's no longer just mine." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "What can we do, Auntie? The women in the village, they are suffering. Is there no way to stop it?" For the first time, she looked at me with real fear in her eyes. "I've spent years trying to undo what I did. But words spoken in anger, in innocence, carry more weight than we realize. They shape our lives, and once they take root, it's hard to pull them out." But, I insisted, there has to be something. Auntie Oma shook her head. "There might be one thing, but it's dangerous." The curse wasn't just about my words. Nana Effia was a powerful woman, more than anyone knew. She had ties to the old ways, the spirits. When I cursed myself, I think I unknowingly drew the spirits into it, and now, they are holding on to it. I leaned forward, listening intently. "There's an old shrine deep in the forest," she continued. "It's long abandoned, but the spirits still dwell there. If I go to the shrine, I can try to beg them to lift the curse. But the spirits don't work for free. They always demand something in return." The thought of Auntie Oma going to the shrine sent shivers through me. Everyone in the village knew stories about people who ventured too far into the forest and never came back. The spirits there were known to be unforgiving, their demands sometimes far worse than the curse itself. "I'll go with you," I said suddenly, not entirely sure why. The words just spilled out before I could stop myself. Auntie Oma gave me a sad smile. "No, child. This is my burden. I brought this upon myself, and it's something I have to face alone." I wanted to argue, but I could see the determination in her eyes. This was her fight, and she knew it. The next morning, before the first light of dawn, I watched from the edge of the village as Auntie Oma disappeared into the forest, heading toward the old shrine. No one else knew where she was going, and I didn't dare tell anyone. It felt like a secret that only the spirits should know. Days passed. There was no sign of her. The village grew quieter, the whispers of the curse spreading faster than ever. Some people began to suspect something terrible was happening, but no one knew what. And as time went on, I started to fear the worst, that Auntie Oma had been claimed by the spirits, just like so many others before her. Then, on the seventh day, something strange happened. The wind changed. It blew through the village with an eerie calm, carrying with it a strange scent, like old wood and earth. The air felt thick, heavy, like something was watching us. And then, just as suddenly as it came, the wind died down, and the village fell silent. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I saw a figure approaching the village from the forest. My heart raced as I recognized the familiar shape. It was Auntie Oma. She looked different, though. Older, weary, like the forest had drained some part of her. But she was alive, and that was enough for me. She didn't speak much when she returned, but the women in the village began to notice something over the next few weeks. Those who had been struggling to conceive were suddenly pregnant. The sickness that had lingered over the village lifted, and life began to return to normal. I went to see Auntie Oma a few days later. She was sitting in her usual spot, on the porch, staring into the distance again. "It's over, isn't it?" I asked, hoping for some kind of reassurance. She nodded slowly, but there was no joy in her expression. "The curse is lifted, but the spirits, they always take something." "What did they take?" I whispered, fearing the answer. Auntie Oma turned to me, her eyes tired but resolute. "They took my voice. I can no longer speak." I stared at her in disbelief, my heart sinking. The woman who had always been so full of life, who had so much to say, could no longer speak. The spirits had taken the one thing that made her who she was. But she didn't seem angry. Instead, there was a kind of peace in her silence, as if she had made her peace with the spirit's price. Auntie Oma lived the rest of her life in the village, helping others in her quiet way. She never had children of her own, but she became a mother to all of us in the village. And though she could no longer speak, her story, her warning, was clear to all of us. Be careful with your words. They hold more power than you can ever imagine. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting folktales. Thank you.